Hey, it's a mule donkey time? Yeah, mule and donkey time. Yeah. Hey, I think Jeff, is it time? Jeff, you know it's time? Yeah.
Just
Jeff
in
says
time.
it's mule
Jess
and
got in
donkey
there
time.
just in time for another mule and donkey talk. Jess has got a lot of experience with the mules. He's got a lot of experience with the donkeys. He keeps them in line, and so he's going to be our special guest today. Of course, he's a dog, and so we can't understand him. But through the gift of relationships, Steve has learned to understand what Jess says, and so everything you hear today is going to be Jess answering the question through Steve Edwards, and it's going to be a real treat. My name's Dave. This is Steve Edwards, and out of the camera is Jess the Border Collie. And every week we get together to talk about mules and donkeys. The thing that we want more than anything else is to take what we have learned over the last 40 years, and that 40 years being Steve. Of course, Steve. I was not even born when Steve was cowboying in the early days there, so I'm learning along with you. We take everything that Steve has learned so that you can get out there, give it a try for yourself. And the hope is that you'll gain the trust of your animal, become the herd leader, get results with you when you train, and it won't be a frustrating or just exhausting experience. If it is exhausting, it will be the good exhaustion where you feel like, man, we put in a good day's work today, and old Fluffy did a lot of really good stuff. Fluffy feels great. You feel even better. That's what we want for you, and that's why we do this each and every week. There's really only three things we ask. And so, for all of our friends out there who first time ever hanging out with us, really only three things we ask. We ask that you would, number one, share your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather is like today. Number two, we ask that you would take the time to put out any and every mule or donkey question that you got. And number three, we ask that you would share the broadcast with friends and family. That's what we're looking for here. So, Steve, right off the bat, I'm looking, and I think I may have an issue. If you're watching on YouTube, would you let us know? I might have an issue with YouTube. While I'm checking into that, Steve, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you've been up to this last week?
Well, hey, Jess says he's got a question for you. He said, "What happens what does a dog say when he sits on a piece of sandpaper?" Rough, rough.
Who was the greatest baseball player of all time? I'll bet he knows that too. Roof, roof.
Jess, is that right, Jess? Tell him, is it? Okay, yeah, he
Yeah,
says you're
roof,
right.
roof.
Yeah,
What's going on, Steve?
yeah, no, we're doing good. Hey, yeah, I see you all see that I'm a little flowered up today. Yep, yeah. This is I'm surprised I was even able to button up the buttons because this shirt's about 30 years old. Back when I was 42 years old and competing at the World Championships at Bishop, California. Yeah, that was me and my guys. Yeah, that right there. Let's see if I can get it just right here. That right there is Bob DeBow. That right there is me. Then I lost the name of this guy for a second. And then this is Max Johnson, head packer at the Canyon. And I don't know why I've lost his name for a second, but it'll come back to me. But he was my wagon boss up at the boy, have I really lost it today. Uh, up the ranch up north here.
You getting
Oh
uppity
my
there?
goodness! I forget his name, but I can't remember the name of the ranch, which just blew me away. I said it's the YOLO Ranch, YOLO YOLO Ranch, and it's pretty unique. But anyway, uh, this was me way back then. I was 42 years old, had a 28-inch waist, and I weighed 165 pounds. Yep, that was me. Oh my goodness, it's I'm not going to tell you my waistline now. It's pretty pathetic, or my weight. Ah, it's Hey, I tell you what happens, Dave, and you're finding that out, I'm sure. Is one morning I woke up and my chest fell to my drawers. Yep. Yeah, I was about 50 years old when it hit me there, but when it really whacked me was when I had both my hips replaced, and my left hip got replaced a year later, and it went septic, and they replaced it 5 times. So I gained weight, I lost muscle, I lost timing. Timing was what I really lost a lot of when I was working with these animals, and that's tough. That slows you down. So that's why I'm real slow now at 75 years old. Ah, but yeah, that was us. That's the picture. I've also got another shirt here. My wife made this shirt. Okay,
I was about to
and
say, tell us the story.
yeah, when at Bishop for the World Championships, all the Packers. There's 4 Packers. Okay, all Packers. Um, we had to everybody wear their pack team's colors, so to speak. And for a long time we just had a a plaid shirt with a vest on it when I was with the Grand Canyon. And and then when I got my own team together, I couldn't pack for the canyon anymore or compete. They wouldn't pay for me, so I put my own team together, and so we had our wives made these shirts up for us because we wanted to be seen. Here's the thing: if you see my videos, especially my packing video at the end of the packing video, it shows me at Bishop coming through, winning the world championships, and and setting a new world record. And you can see that on the video when you buy that packing video. And it was a lot of fun. So, and then one of the other shirts that we had, and again, our wives made these up for us. Here's the other shirt, and we want them so because when you're up in an audience looking down in Bishop, and it's all a great big arena, and there's 200 animals running loose in there, and packers trying to catch animals, mules and horses loose, because you see you have to take everything off of them and put it in some piles, and then the announcer comes in and says, okay, everybody put a knee on the ground, and then they start blaring the loud music, and clowns come in with shotguns and making loud noises. I mean, boy, animals were scattering everywhere. It was pretty incredible. And you had Yosemite, you had Grand Canyon, you had uh, uh, Rock Creek. You had lots of major players here. The top packers in the nation were right there, and we used to have big teams too. It was nothing to see teamsters driving 6, 8, and 10 at a time. And of course, my good friend who's passed away now, Bobby Tanner, he used to drive the 20 mule team. I don't know who they're going to get to replace him because that's a that's a that's a lot of experience right there because they don't have you when you got 20 mules, 10 on one side, 10 on the other. You only drive the front 2, and the ones in the middle pull a great big chain through the middle and pull 3 wagons. It's pretty incredible to see. But I don't know who they're going to have to replace here this next year for Bobby Tanner. But he was a great guy and a great packer. Boy, him and I used to pester each other all the time packing. But that was a bunch of years ago. So there we are. That's it in a nutshell. And it was a lot of fun. It's changed a lot now. Unfortunately, you don't the old mule skinners that were competing all the time, who come right off the mountains right to do this kind of a gathering get together. They're pretty much all gone now. So it's up to the kids to get it done.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get it done today. So I hope everybody is ready with their questions. I want to say hello. Steve, I am having some problems with my computer today. So I might be a little bit slower on the go. For some reason, it's not letting me scroll. Like I can't scroll on any window. And of course, if I restart my computer, then it ends the live stream. So I'm going to see if I can get through it see if I can get through it, dealing with what I got going on here. It's never happened to me before, and I cannot figure it out. But if anyone can figure it out, I can. Merlin is watching from northwest Minnesota, cloudy and 40 degrees. Good to have you here. Lisa is watching from Baltimore, Maryland, 70 degrees. Marcia is watching from nice and sunny Virginia. My friend wants to know when Steve became the Mule Man. When did Steve become the Mule Man?
Oh, I don't know. Ha! I don't. Well, it's kind of hard to kind of figure. I started working with mules back when I had my mule Casper. One of these times I'll have to take a picture of a painting that one of my clients did for me of Casper, and that was back about 80, 79, 80, 81, something like that. I think around 81, but it's been a long time. But I don't know if you can call me the Mule Man, but I've always enjoyed these mules, and they've taken me all over the world. I've been training mules in Israel and Egypt, and it's fun training mules on the Sinai Desert in Egypt. Can you imagine that? And Australia, and with the in Brazil with the uh, Equifest. Wow, that was a big deal. They say the top trainers in the world are invited to that, and they invited one old mule guy there, which was a lot of fun, you know. So, oh, by the way, I just remember the name of this fella here. That's tough when you can't do that. This guy here, he was the wagon boss at the Yolos, and his name was Alan Arnold, and he's quite a character, that guy. But he was my wagon boss up there. And see, we call them wagon bosses when you're working for an outfit that's a ranch. Uh, when you wear a gray hat,
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
My phone thinks I'm asking a question. Um, when you wear a gray hat, you're a boss, and when you're wearing a black hat, you're a rancher, a worker. You know, you're a cowboy. Um, and so that's kind of some of the pecking order there. But Max Johnson, he was actually the head packer. He was the guy on the far end. He was the head packer at the Grand Canyon. Him and I, we had a lot of fun packing up and down the mountains, telling poetry. One of his poems is something I'll do toward the end there when we got the time, and if we got the time, and I'll tell that poem at the end from Max Johnson.
Awesome, very good. Well, I figured out what my problem was. My
Oh,
mouse all of a sudden stopped working, and I've got a little trackpad here, so I'm gonna try and see if I can fix it all on the fly. Kenneth is watching from Kenneth is watching from Patton, Missouri, 65 degrees, rain, need it bad. Appreciate you guys. Thank you very much, Kenneth. Tamar is watching from Mount Marshall, Queensland, Australia, which means right off the bat we've gone international. And good to have you here. She says it's sunny. David Scholl from Queensland, Australia, is taking us international. Beautiful, warm, and sunny. So we've got corroborating reports there from our two Aussie friends tuning in from overseas. Wayne is here watching from the Sonoran Desert, Arizona, 71 degrees, and I'll bet you're loving it. Aren't you, Wayne? Like me and Steve are loving it. It's like McDonald's. I'm loving it. David Scholl asks, when are you coming back to Australia, Steve?
ha! Hey, Dave, I would love to come to Australia. I really enjoyed it there, and spending time with you and Di. You guys were just wonderful. We stayed at your place. My wife spent some time with your camel, which was kind of fun. And then as you took us around on your ranch, it was amazing to see it. And then taking us around through Australia showed us some different things. You were really great. Thank you. I'm and I still remember the thing about that is when we were leaving Australia. Uh, we had been way back in the bush, and there was no telephone or anything like that, and we had to use satellite phones. And when we come out, we found out that somebody had put some kind of virus out there that they had different names for. Ha ha. And anyway, they give us 3 days to get back in the United States. Otherwise, they would be shutting down the borders. So we thought, well, we're all right. We got our plane tickets and everything. We thought, well, we just run over to the little airport that we were at, which would then took us to Melbourne, the major airport. Well, we get over the little airport and said, well, we're sorry, Mr. Edwards, but your plane has been discontinued, shut down. You don't have a plane to get to the United States. And I said, well, I got to have one because I got 3 days and I paid for a ticket, yada, yada. So anyway, we flew that day, and we weren't supposed to fly till the day before or day afterwards. And we flew to Melbourne, spent the night, found a plane, got the last plane, the last two seats to get back to the United States. And wow, that was something. So I said all that to say this. Even though that happened and this pandemic kicked in, and notice I said pandemic, yeah. Anyway, hey, I'd be happy to come back to Australia. And I know Dave and his wife would probably even follow us. What do you think, Dave?
Yes.
Oh,
I'm here. I'm working through some stuff. Okay. We're not going to let it slow us down, though. Let's see. Edna is watching from Spring Hill, Florida. Sunny and very nice. Wayne says, it is too cold at 71. I am spoiled. The first question that we have, this one comes in about draft mules and says, a friend of mine, this is from a screen name current grad student. A friend of mine has a pair of mini mules that I got to see recently when I visited him. They were super cute and very friendly. I knew people bred mules with regular sized horses and donkeys, but my friend told me people breed draft mules too. And I guess I momentarily forgot what was possible. I also learned mammoth donkeys were a thing too. It just gave me another cute animal to go awe over. This did make me wonder about some things. What is the desired result for breeding draft mules? Is it to produce a mule that's built like a Clydesdale or something? How common are they? What groups of people like them? What percentage of draft mules would you say come from mule breeders? What come from casual breedings and backyard breedings? And what would a draft mule that is not to a standard look like? I'm sure that things don't happen the way people want in equine, so I'm wondering what that would look like. So I thought this question, Steve, was really a good opportunity, maybe just to give some overview on draft mules in general, uses, what people appreciate about them, et cetera, and hear what your thoughts are.
you bet. Well, the idea. Let me just let me give you the first part. Where did draft mules come from? They come from Spain. How did they get here? George Washington. Yep, he is the father of the mules. He actually brought mules, the mule breeding, to the United States for farming, for the industrial part of farming. And so while he was in Spain, he was visiting with King Ferdinand the Second, and King Ferdinand the First bred a lot of Paso Fino horses and did not like the idea of Paso Fino mules. So when he passed away, then his son started breeding mules to Paso Finos. Well, they had also before this been with King Ferdinand the First had been breeding to different types of draft mules because the draft mule could pull the wagons and do the farm work like the draft horses. But here's the deal. The draft mule was so much more stronger when we talking pound for pound when it come down to it. And so what happened was King Ferdinand the Second sent 2 jack donkeys by ship back with George Washington. All right. And when he did that, the donkeys almost made it back. One of them made it back. The other one passed away, and that donkey's name was Royal Gift. Well, the Clydesdale, the Shire, the Percheron horses were all bred for one main reason, and that is for driving, for pulling wagons, because they had the bone, they had the muscle power, they had a big hip, they had a strong shoulder, all these things that were needed to be for pulling wagons, for pulling plows, and this sort of thing, for farming. So when Washington come over, oh, by the way, when Washington was in Spain, he looked across and seen all the farming and seen these animals going up and down the furrows. He said, "What are those?" And King Ferdinand II said, "Those are mules. You take a donkey for the father, the mother be the horse, and you come up with that. Very strong, muy fuerte, muy strength, very muy fuerte, very strong." So George Washington gets them back to the United States, get the one back here, and he started breeding the different mules. Now, the Belgian mule is the most popular mule out in the South. Matter of fact, the Reese brothers were really known for breeding those type of mules and and horses as well. And so they still do some work. Oh yeah, the Amishmen. Some of the Amish groups will not use a mule because of their beliefs, and some of them only use horses, and you get some of them that only uses mules. And so there you have it in a full sense. They're extremely strong. They do work for a lot less, so to speak, and they can get the job done. So that's the overview of the mule. Dave, I bet that's a part you haven't heard yet.
I have not. I had no idea about that. That's pretty fascinating, especially here on this presidential election Tuesday, hearing that our first president is responsible for bringing the mule to the United States. That's pretty cool. Are the mammoths? I see them fewer. It might just be from the circles that I'm around, but are there fewer mammoths? Do you have is it harder to find mammoths? Are you really having to breed to them or breed for them? What? Just give me how common are they now today, and are people trying to seek them out?
Oh yeah, mammoth donkeys are very prevalent today. We've bred, matter of fact, we're breeding very nice. We're seeing some wonderful mammoth donkeys, and the mammoth donkeys, they're great for breeding with your farm type animals, your Shires, your Belgians, your Percherons, and this sort of thing. And uh, they're great for that because they build a sturdy bone. Now, in saddle animals, we prefer a little bit finer bone, not as coarse a head, and this sort of thing. So there, you would use a standard donkey, and I believe the line is 56 inches tall. I've not done any much with that in the past, but anyway, if you want a very fine donkey or a mule, then you should go right at. I like to go right at that point of almost draft, almost standard, and that's what David did. David Scholl in Australia, he's got one beautiful Jack, and he's doing lots of AI work. And I'll tell you, folks, he sells these mules in Australia before they're born. You hear that? People are waiting in line to purchase these mules before they're born. Now I'm going to blow you away some more because you got to remember he's breeding really good. Wait a minute. Am I? Yeah, I'm working okay. Dave sells these mules, babies. They would be weanlings when he does send them home, send them to new owners. But he averages about $9,000 a head. Yep, for a quality mule. So if if you really want something good, you have to breed good to get good, and most of all, a mind. And that's what Dave Scholl has done. He's got the first major breeding program in the United States. It's first class all the way through. When I went and seen his home back then, he was worm farming, and that was his way of making a living. Before that, it was a dairy work. So, but now, and Dave and Di has put forth the effort. Di breeds really good dogs. She's now breeding border doodles. Yeah, I don't know that I like the idea of border collie and a poodle, but anyway, I'd be interested to see how they work. But anyway, there we are, Dave. That's it in a nutshell.
It's very fun. Thank you. Appreciate that. Cowboy Ken is watching from Connecticut at 70 degrees and beautiful. Jane is watching from North Florida, cloudy, 82. Here showers come. Sandra is watching from Apache Junction where it's 70 degrees and beautiful. Damien is watching from Waxahachie, Texas. Nice and cool. Are tumors common in mules? Damien asks. I have a mule that has one on her belly teat area. Thank you.
Yes, especially in the teat area, that is prevalent. Are you sure it's a tumor? How old is this mule? Because sometimes you can get what we call baby warts, is one name for them. They get around their nose and stuff. Sometimes they get it around their testicle area and penis area. But yeah, it is common. Listen, folks, mules are not bulletproof. They can have just as many sicknesses, just as many problems with their feet and their stomach and their intestines. They're not bulletproof, okay, and they do get sick.
All right, I think I got my issues worked out. I can now scroll again.
All
So
right,
hopefully that will
replace
help us out.
batteries.
I'm down to one screen. Usually I have two. I'm down to one, but I've overcome worse. Let's see. Marcia is watching, says mule equals mula in Spanish. There you go. Mula. Jim, 67 degrees in Michigan, going on a beach ride Thursday on the shores of Lake Michigan in Silver Lake, Michigan. Great ride. Look it up sometime. You ever ridden in Michigan, Steve?
Yeah, I have. I did some clinics in Michigan. I got several clients with Mules in Michigan. When the expos were really a big deal, I did several expos there in Michigan, especially when RFD was one of my sponsors.
All right. Misty is watching from Utah where it's 38 degrees. Misty and Judy, good to have you here. Myra says belated, but here after all, greetings. Hannah is watching from Florida. Today of all days, God bless America, 84 degrees. Thank you, Hannah. Appreciate the reminder. Cheryl says, beautiful day here in North Carolina. Leaves on the ground. The twins are happy. Are those twins that we showed pictures of a while ago, Steve?
I I think so. Yeah, if I remember her name right.
All right,
Uh
cool.
oh, thought maybe I froze up for just a minute.
Yeah, so my boys just got home, and I'm wondering if they're trying to turn all of the internet things on at one time. So I'm going to send a text message to mom here in a second. Sherman Johnson's watching 59 degrees, 6 inches of rain in the last 3 days. That sounds great. I would love that. Okay, let's see here. Kyle, can I
Hey
get
Sherman.
more? What's that?
Well, yeah, I want to have Sherman call me. My son got an ibex in Kyrgyzstan, and I want to see if he can do the mounting.
All right, let's see here. Kyle
Oh yeah.
says, can I get more detail on hand placement and pressure for bending and lowering the head? Pressure and release in preparation for the come along rope. Thanks, Kyle.
Okay, Kyle. So here's what we have to understand: is that mules care about their nose. So my left hand is on the nose, and it's right about where I can stick my thumb and my middle finger, this one here, okay, and it's going to go in the nostril. My other hand is going to go behind the pole. Now, here's what you're going to do. You're going to have your hands there. You're not going to push nothing. They're just, they're just going to be there. All right? And the mule's going to try to figure out, well, what can I do to get you to take your hands off of my head? And finally, he's moving around, and finally he drops his head. When he does, I take my hand off, put my hand back on. Now, we do have a video of me putting a bridle on and teaching how to do this at one of my clinics. And if Dave can maybe probably find it, it's when I'm putting the bridle on that buckskin looking mule.
Okay, cool. I'm looking for it. I'll see if I can find that and put a link. I know that that one is available, Steve, as one of the free videos that everybody who registers for an account, they're free accounts on muleranch.com. And of course, free is our favorite F word. So if you go to muleranch.com and you sign up for a free account, that video will be in there along with quite a few other free videos. But I'll look and see if I can find the individual. Let's hop back over. Say hello to Herschel is watching from Missouri, where it's 60 and cloudy. Jim has the question: how do you train your mule to pack meat? Would putting it in a game bag and then in a waterproof bag and seal it help? So, Steve, first the question is, why would you need to train it? Shouldn't it just do whatever you want it to do? And then how would you train it?
Well, it's not so much a matter of training, because yes, you want to train your mules to pack an outfit, to pack bags and a sawbuck, but when it comes to meat, it can vary. I've had some really good mules absolutely refuse to have fresh elk put on them, and they probably packed more elk than any mule ever, but just happened to be that day. So here's one thing you always want to keep in mind, folks, is just because they've done it all their life don't mean they're going to keep on doing it. All right? So that's really important for you to understand. That's one thing. So here's the deal. What I would do is, the big problem with it, of course, is airing it out. But I take and put my meat inside of black garbage bags, those big, heavy 50-gallon ones, and then I wrap it up good, and then I put it in each one of my panniers. Or if I am packing and with just a saddle, I can put a box hitch on it and pack it. But anyway, I put it in plastic containers. Don't take the animals up to smell the elk. Just because they've done it today, they probably said, well, I'm going to do that today, but I ain't doing it after this. And they will pull away from you. I know a lot of people that have got mules on the sides of mountains that they couldn't find for several days, simply because they were stupid enough to walk up to try to teach them to smell dead animals. Don't do that, okay? Don't do that. Just pack them just like you normally pack them. Put them in the plastic bags, then put them in your panniers, put the panniers on, and you're done. Now, yeah, I've put Vicks underneath the nose. I've put blood underneath the nose, and this sort of thing, which works for a little bit. I put hides on the corrals, okay? Yeah, and folks, it don't work, okay? Desensitizing does not work. Foundational training is what works. There we are.
All right, Steve, I forgot to mention this up at the very beginning, but next week we've got something awesome that we're doing. This came at the request of, well, yours truly. We are doing another clinic, another live clinic webinar, and this one is all about equitation. This is learning the tools of equitation. This is learning all the different ways to communicate. Folks think they got to communicate with their voice. I guess you can do that, but there's really a lot more communication tools available to you beyond your voice, and people don't tap into communicating below the waist as much as they should. Steve, would you take 30 minutes to tell folks what we're going to talk about during this clinic?
I get 30 minutes? Oh, man, here we go. No, I know you meant 30 seconds.
I just gave Steve the green light. seconds, Steve. 30 seconds. That was my
Okay.
bad.
Yeah, that's no problem. Folks, what the videos that you're going to see are actually horses, and it's called a dressage, okay? Cowboy dressage. And Eitan, very good friend of mine from Israel, he is absolutely one of the most phenomenal trainers you have ever seen. And he lives in Northern California. And he's also very good friends with Dr. Robert Miller as well and Debbie. Anyway, we've done clinics together at different expos, and I have never been to his ranch, and I've often, negated that. But anyway, I need to do that sometime. Anyway, we're going to be seeing videos of him. Now, what we're going to be seeing is we're going to see the very best of equitation with Eitan. You'll see him demonstrating equitation at its absolute pinnacle at a rodeo. Okay. And then you're going to see some and he's riding in a finished bit. Then you're going to see some competition. Now, these are all horses because, unfortunately, like I've told you all before, there's very few mules that are really well trained. Most of them are kind of trained. Now, I know a lot of you don't want to hear that, okay? But it's pretty pathetic what we call in training out there and what people are paying big money for that is supposed to be trained, and they are not trained. They've got kind of training, okay? And I'll get into that more. But you're also going to see some competition with a lady in the snaffle bit, and you'll see. Remember, I told you, folks, okay? And this is really important. Looks like, Dave, I'm frozen up.
You're here. We're still here.
Oh, there we go. Well, no, not again. The kids playing all the games.
No, my wife said that they're not even on
Mm.
they're not on any devices. So we may have a all right. So real quick, while we're trying to get Steve's audio working again, I wanted to let you guys know that next Wednesday, November 13th, that's when the live clinic is going to be all about equitation. I put a link in the comment section, and one of the reasons why I wanted to do this particular clinic is we've talked about all different aspects of equitation over time, but what we haven't done is actually given dedicated time to a full understanding of what equitation should look like for mules and donkeys. Now, Steve did send me some videos to include in next week's clinic, and as I was watching them, it was this something called cowboy dressage, and it was incredible. And so, truthfully, as I was watching it, I didn't necessarily understand everything that I was seeing. And so, having Steve, knowing that next week we've got an opportunity to sit down, I'm going to be asking Steve some questions about this video because I could tell that it was impressive, but there was a lot happening that I know that I wasn't seeing. And so, Steve, I'm just telling them about the videos that you sent from one of your friends that we're going to be using during the clinic. And it was just incredible, the amount of control and the amount of, like, the rider, you couldn't even see the rider communicating to the animal, yet the animal obeyed every single command that was coming its way. And you knew that it was obeying because everything was so precise. It was really, really impressive. And I'm looking forward to being able to learn a little bit more. Did you have anything else that you wanted to say? I know we got broken up there, but did you have anything else you wanted to say about that?
No, you pretty much set it up, Dave. Equitation uh, is can be really refined, which you're going to see here, but you're also going to see it in a very competitive way. But it's like I'm telling you all, uh, the movement of your hands needs to be minimal. Like Dave said, when you watch these videos, I will be telling you what you're looking at and what you're looking for, but you're going to see horses, and these folks that are trainers out there that are training these mules have uh, they don't really have an idea of what it's like to have a trained mule. Okay, I hear people all the time tell me they got a trained mule. No, you don't. You've got one with a kind of a foundation. But anyway, I'm gonna get into it, and it's gonna be pretty awesome. And I'll talk about it more when we see the videos and when Dave asks the questions and stuff.
Yeah, so that's in the link is in the comment section. I'd encourage you all to sign up. And of course, we always get questions. Well, what if I can't be there live? And I get that life is busy, so we send out a replay within 24 hours. Usually, it's just a couple hours later. I take the recording, I download it, I edit it, I upload it back up so that you can watch it. And just get straight to the heart of the matter. And so usually that's available within a few hours after the clinic is over. It's always available the next morning. So next question, this one came in from Apri, and Apri says, let's see here, how many times a year do you guys file your donkey's hooves? Our donkeys love rolling in the mud on their backs all day, so they don't think about rocks at all. We have to do it multiple times a year, and I thought that was a great question. Steve, how many times do you need to file a donkey's hooves per year?
Okay, here's the thing with a donkey, folks. It has the worst hoof of any equine. It's horrible. According to that hoof, he should barely be walking. Okay. And it's not a matter of rocks, folks. It's not a matter of rocks. It's more a matter of contracting, of having the hoof, which should be nice and full, and having it contract and getting small, especially in the back of the foot right here. Okay, so you should be depending on the average donkey, you should be trimming every 4 to 6 weeks. Trimming. Just filing doesn't always do the trick. And there are times that you have to do uh, a special work with it that will take you have to put a shoe on to spread the back of the foot. The biggest problem with most donkeys is that people do not trim them short enough. They're always too long. You should have at the most 1 inch of hoof wall all the way around. At the most, that would be almost 8 to 10 weeks of growth. You want it as short as possible so that the mud doesn't ball up, and so the snow doesn't ball up, and so that you don't get a bunch of mud and stuff taken in there all the time. Because here's the problem: bacteria with the manure and the urine and this sort of thing, and what's in the ground anyway, all can create problems where you could have some serious hoof problems with these donkeys. So trim them and file them down every 6 weeks. At the most, 4 weeks is more needed.
Awesome. Thank you for that question. Appreciate it. Jim is watching from Western Maryland, 73 degrees and warm. Ashley is watching from Minneapolis, cold and raining. Kimberly is watching from Maryland, 76 and sunny. Merlin says, got you back on. Yeah, I guess we had some glitches there. Glad we got back, Merlin. Marcia says, always be improving your riding skills even more than your animal, in my opinion. Yeah, always, why would you not want to improve your riding skills? Every edge you can get, why would you not want to get that edge? That's great. Will Steve be having clinics at the ranch in 2025? That's a good question, Misty. And right now the answer is no. Of course, things could always change. But really, what we have found is that a lot of what we've been able to do in person on the ranch, with all that expense, with all of that planning, with all of the logistics, we found that we've been able to get very close, probably, I don't know, 70, 80%, maybe even more of what we could do on the ranch live in person. We've been able to do here on these clinics, and then also through videos and messaging back and forth. And so that's not to say that we wouldn't do something in the future, but we have no plans to do it. But you are watching the program that when anything does come up, whether it's something at the ranch or most likely Steve appearing somewhere maybe once or twice a year. This program is where we make sure that everybody knows exactly where that's going to be. So if you have any questions, we want to help you. You can call Steve directly. You can send him a message. You can send the website a message. We want to help you, and that's why we show up each and every week, and we sure would be glad to hear what you have going on. Robert is watching from North Missouri, 54 degrees, cloudy, misty, and very, very muggy. So hopefully that mug gets down. Steve, what is the large? This is a question I had after reading some commentary online. What is the largest mule you have ever seen in person?
Oh my.
And while you're thinking about that, the follow-up that I had is I know that with dogs, really little dogs and really big dogs typically have more health concerns than kind of like a mid-range dog. Is the same thing true for really large mules or really large donkeys? If they're really big, is there additional health concerns that you have to be aware of?
No, no, not really any health concerns. I think in thinking about the size of the mules, I think the largest one that I saw was a 20 hands, and that's pretty large. My personal Shire mules were 17 hands high, and so that I could stand. I'm 5'6", and I could stand underneath their nose, and their chin would be on top of my head, barely. So that's how big they are. The head alone probably weighs 300 pounds, but that's probably about the largest that I've ever seen. I've seen that at an expo several years ago.
That would be a pretty incredible sight. I mean, I've seen one that's how big was Rufus down at Vale Ranch in Andrada Ranch in Vale?
Well, Rufus was 16 too.
Okay,
So yeah,
he
so
was a big boy.
he was a big because he was Percheron bred too. You know, he
Yeah,
was your Percherons are your whites and your grays and your blacks.
man, he was massive. He had a really pretty white color, white grayish color, if I remember
Yep.
correctly.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was a nice mule. That was he was an awful nice mule and very consistent. The people that we sold those mules to got the very best. I'm telling you, you know, Randy and I, we trained on them. We made them really nice and used them at the ranch. Didn't ever think about selling them. Um, but then the time came, and then Randy got this cancer and then passed away a couple years later. But anyway, people got them mules,
yeah,
got some fine mules.
yeah, they did. Let's see. Julie in Kentucky says, "Nice weather." Asks the question: when your mule is too nervous or worried about something, what do you do?
I stand there and just be quiet. I don't say nothing. Oh, it'll be okay, Fluffy. No, don't say a thing. Just be quiet, and if it makes you feel good, pet him on the neck a little bit, but make the reins loose. Don't have them tight. I'm really worried. I'm really worried to hold them up tight. Don't do that. Have the reins loose. Why? Because when they make a mistake and they look to the right or to the left and try to find a way to escape, you can bump them to the right and say, that's the wrong answer. Bump them to the left, that's the wrong answer. Because if you go to bumping on them and this sort of thing really hard, you're going to make them even more scared, and there you go from there. And I keep quiet with my legs, and I just wait until the problem goes by. Now, a lot of times I'll take the slightest try of my mule, dropping his head a little bit or something, and I'll take that slightest try, and then I will move off away from the problem. What's causing it to be nervous? Do you know?
All right. So follow-up question there. What is causing him to be nervous? While we're waiting for that, let's see here. Oh, during training, she says, is during training, and ask the follow-up question. So she'll get back to yours. And then would you delay training if this is the case?
Uh, no, I would probably do some small things. I'd probably go into come along training or something and back off and then come back again. You don't want to just quit. You want to quit on a good note. So you may want to go back a couple steps on your foundation and then give them a pet, and never turn around and walk off. Always, pardon me. Always go to the right or to the left to finish off, and that way you keep them going in the right direction.
I'm feeling the same way too, Steve. You got that yawn, and I'm over here like it's contagious. We're almost there. Steve and I. I don't know if you're tired. I am exhausted. I was up late. I told Steve when we got on before the program. I says I'm not feeling my best today. I'm not old, but I am older than I was when I was in my 20s, and staying up past midnight is just not something that is on my calendar each and every day. So last night when we were staying up late, my wife and I just sitting on the couch, enjoying talking to one another. I really do enjoy being around her, and so we were having great conversation. I didn't want to go to bed while we were waiting for one of our sons to come home. He didn't get home till 11:30, and then of course, Steve, parents know this. You struggle and struggle and struggle to get your children to share with you what's going on in their lives. The older they get, you want something more than good or okay or fine. And he comes home and he's just talk, 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 talk. He's just so excited about. He went to the Suns game, the basketball game last night.
Oh,
So I was like, I don't want to go to sleep because I really want to hear what he has to say. And I was just eating it up. But man, I woke up this morning just feeling it. So I worked from home today. Usually I'm at my office when we do these programs. So I'm working from home today, and I see you yawning. I was like, oh man, Steve looks like I'm feeling right there. We're almost there. So the next question, this one came in from Scourge. Says, I read in a YouTube comment, of course, you know you're going to get reliable information in a YouTube comment. I read that a lot of donkeys, especially males, will act dramatic because they like sympathy and they want to be babied. Is this true?
yeah. No, absolutely not. That is a human trait. You won't see that with a donkey, let alone a jack. Okay, but I don't know who told you that, but I've been around a few donkeys all over the world, and no such thing. That's a human trait, and that's one of the problems that we have here, folks. We try to put our human traits upon our not so human animals called a mule, a donkey, a horse, equine. Okay, that that is a no. Okay, absolutely not. They have to be looking at. They have to be looking for things like that, because when I've watched donkeys, I've watched them wild. I've watched them trained. I've watched them all kinds of ways, and I make it an extreme habit to read their every movement and this sort of thing, because as I read those movements that they're doing, which is their way of communication, I see that there are consistent things that they do. Okay, especially if flight and fright's kicking in. Okay, they've got very consistent things when they're hungry, when they want to go home. Okay, when they're tired of training, they have consistent things that they do. But folks, don't put what's human upon an equine.
Yeah, that was early on in this program, Steve. That was one of the big eye opening things. Um, I was doing it, not necessarily a human putting my traits on the animal, but more as I was taking what I saw from my experience with dogs, house dogs, and I was saying, well, they want to be around people. They don't want to be left alone. They like treats. They thrive on treats. They want freedom. They don't want to be but all they don't want to be kenneled up. Although what I found is that the dog actually enjoys having a small kennel space, and they'll kind of retreat to that. But I was putting all of my perceptions about what I thought would make an animal comfortable based upon what made me comfortable and what I had known would make a dog comfortable. And what we've talked about for the last 7 years is that's just not the case. The the donkey and the mule are so different, and you go wrong when you start treating them like a person, or treating them like a dog, or treating them like a house pet, because they're not, and their needs are so different. And what
Yeah.
you think might be compassionate care is actually abusive, right? We've talked about that, as folks will say, I love my animal to get out there and just have all that pasture and be able to roam free. And what we find is that's where all sorts of health problems come up on them, because they've got no discipline, right? They've got no discipline. Sometimes we lack discipline too, but they got no discipline to stop eating. So they're just going to go and go and go, and ultimately you're abusing your animals. And so that was a real big eye opening thing for me. Let's see
I
here.
talked to I talked to one of my clients who's had mules for over 30 years, and he's from the South in the Georgia area. And all of them been training the mules the same way from their great 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 granddaddy grandmother's Aunt Tilly. Okay, all been doing the same thing. And he told me, he said he's a truck driver, been driving for Walmart for almost 30 years. He puts me on his ears every single day, and listens. Now he's got, of course, it's all like this right here, the question and answer stuff, but he listens to it. And he said, Steve, I thought that my dad was a good trainer, and he was a good trainer. But to hear you and to see the results, and now that I am using these techniques, I can't believe the difference in how soft you are and how easy you are on your animals compared to what my dad was. And everybody always said my dad was a super trainer. Okay. But he said the come along hitch, we've had some people get kind of worried about that. He said the come along hitch is absolutely the finest way I have ever had to train any kind of animal, whether he was a tough animal or one pretty easy. That come along hitch is such a fine tool, and it can be used in a multitude of ways. So I said all that to say this, Dave. These animals are animals, period. Okay. And we must make them comfortable, uncomfortable. That's their life. If you're going to own an equine, you have to be the herd leader, comfortable, uncomfortable. Okay. If you're going to own an equine, you have to learn how to ask, tell, demand. You have those 5 things, and you could pretty much communicate with any donkey, any mule, or if your standards are low, any horse. Okay. And I'm going to tell you, it's to hear people talk. They've been doing this for years, and said they finally run into a problem to where they couldn't figure it out, and they've been doing the same thing for years, and all of a sudden they hear me give them an answer. It's amazing to think that these people have really tried hard, and they're willing to still learn, which is a wonderful thing.
All right, we've got the follow up from Julie, and then one final question from Merlin. So Julie says, what could be making him nervous? It could be anything from a person riding a motorbike. He could see it or hear it in the distance behind the trees. Yeah, so that's what she says, and it's during training.
Well, that's where the come along hitch comes in. And you always want to remember, Julie, and all of you want to remember this: keep your animal straight all the time. Okay, especially under pressure. Get to where you could barely touch that come along rope, and they will respond. When you all see my webinar coming up next week, you're going to see those riders barely moving. Matter of fact, you won't hardly see them move, and you're thinking, how did that horse know how to side pass? How did that horse know how to turn on the forehand? How is that horse able to side pass at a trot? Yes, you're going to see them side passing at a trot. Yeah, you're going to see all kinds of stuff. But anyway, going back to this, a little bit will get you a lot, Dave.
All right, Misty sent a message. She says, I've seen those groups and I've seen what you're talking about, but I can't say I didn't until I started listening to you And now I know why our donkey has quirks when riding him. Thankfully, he's got great disposition, easily fixable now that I educated myself, as well as understanding why putting them in a 20 by 20 pen, especially after having life happen since August and haven't spent time with my boy, I see where this is crucial. Finally, after 6 months, I'm feeling more confident with training and seeing where I will take this approach with the horses as well. I really do think it's a marvel. Like, I really am just impressed by your ability to hear what people are sharing. And I'll think I've got the answer, and maybe I've got part of the answer, but they will say one little word or they'll make one little comment, and all of a sudden the answer will go a completely different way. And I'll be like, oh, okay, well, I guess that makes sense. And so Misty sharing that it really wasn't until watching your program, hearing you talk, that a lot of this stuff made sense. I am actually really, really impressed by your ability to listen to what people are saying, get the nuance of what they're discussing, and then share it. So I know I speak on behalf of everyone that I'm very, very grateful that you share all that information. It really, really is impressive. Last question of the day. Merlin says, if a mule starts to get worried, the more you react, or he's just making a comment here then. If a mule starts to get worried, the more you react, the more he is going to be upset. Unless he does something wrong, don't react at all. If you are not worried about something, chances are the mule won't react either. He will read your concern right away and will react to your concern. Does that sound true?
Yep, absolutely. No, he's exactly correct. They can feel it, when you're in the saddle or in the reins or hold on the lead rope, they can feel it. Yep.
All right. Well, hey, folks, that's it for us today. Thanks for bearing with us on these technical difficulties. I'm not quite sure what happened. I did all of the things I was supposed to do before we went live. I rebooted my computer. I plugged everything in. I've got power. Sometimes the technology just is what it is, and it makes me grateful that we got the technology in the first place and we can connect with you each and every week. Don't forget, as it is with every extra clinic, you got to register. It's free, but you have to register to be a part. So the link is in the comments section. It's right there at the bottom. Go ahead, sign up, share the link with friends or family that you'd like to join with as well. And we are real excited to have you. Steve, anything you want to say before we're all done here today?
No, well, I didn't sleep very good last night either, Dave. I was over at my church at 6 o'clock with a lot of other churches nationwide praying for this voting and this sort of thing. And when I got home, boy, my mind was going 9-0, and I was doing a lot of praise and worship and stuff. And boy, I was really restless in my sleep last night. So I'm not as rested either. And I know you're not feeling good with this kind of a Chet Hess cold and this sort of thing, but hey, you're still looking good. You are getting grayer. Yeah, that you are. But that's what Three Boys does to you. Yeah, what do you think of that, folks? Yeah, there's the hat. Isn't that good?
American
Yeah,
Mule and
that
Bluegrass
right there.
Festival.
Yeah.
Marty Ray had these sent out, I guess.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
I said that Shrine family needs to be dressed properly. They're not being dressed properly, so he's getting you dressed properly.
This is a real cowboy shirt right here.
I can't wait for your son to wear that to school.
That's right. That's right. Folks, thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next week. We'll see you Tuesday and Wednesday next week. Double dose. If you haven't voted and your polling stations are still open, get out there and vote. If you're here in the United States, it's a privilege to be able to be a part of the process. And in the history of the world, it was something where you didn't get a say in who your leader was. In the United States, we changed that, and it changed the course of history forever. So thank you for being here, but make sure you get out there and vote, and God bless. See you, Steve.
You froze. I'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
You froze up. Okay, I'm frozen. You're frozen. All right, we'll see you. Bye-bye.